Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Here, I would like to welcome Sir Michael Baba, who is a renowned worldwide reformer and was advisor to ex-Prime Minister Tony Blair. And we thank him for his time that he is sharing with us. And Sir Michael Baba, we would like to start off the proceedings right away. And I apologize for the fact that the proceedings would be in Urdu, but if there are any questions, clarifications, I myself or Dr. Sania can elaborate or clarify or translate. So once again, welcome Sir Michael Baba. Please go ahead.
Can you hear me? I just want to check. Is that clear? Is the sound clear?
You are loud and clear.
Thank you, Minister. And thank you, Dr. Sania. It's a pleasure to join you at this media event in Pakistan. I want to start by saying I'm a long-standing friend of Pakistan. I've visited the country more than 50 times. I've been in the south, in the rural areas, I've been in Lahore, I've been in Karachi, Islamabad, Abbottabad, I've been all over the country. I've visited schools, I've visited health centres and so on. It's a country very dear to my heart, so I'm very proud and honoured to join you this morning. The report we're publishing today, which is available to all of those of you that attend the press conference and will be made public, is about the EZAZ programme. I think you're familiar with the EZAZ programme. Before I make my comments, I thought I'd just give you an outline of the programme, and clearly Dr. Sania can give you all the detail you possibly want. The EZAZ programme is a multi-dimensional anti-poverty programme that has the explicit support of the Prime Minister himself. He himself says, and you'll see it on the front page of the report, that the EZAZ programme is a top priority for me personally and for the whole government. That's what the Prime Minister thinks about this programme. It's a top priority for him and his government, and his special assistant, Dr. Sania, to oversee that programme. The programme has, I won't go into a lot of detail, but just to give you an idea, it has 4 pillars. One dealing with elite capture and governance. The second one providing a safety net for everybody in Pakistan, regardless of their background. The third one is about human capital development, health and education. And the fourth one is about jobs and livelihoods. And the idea of the programme is that if you do all those 4 things, you don't just address the symptoms of poverty, you address the causes of poverty. And the programme is in that sense comprehensive and ambitious. And in order to oversee the programme, the Prime Minister and the bureaucracy in Islamabad has created a new ministry called PASS, Poverty Alleviation and Social Security, with 2 excellent secretaries there working with Dr. Sania to ensure that this programme is successful. And because of the breadth of the programme, it involves many of the other ministries in the country, and indeed it involves not just the federal government, but the provincial governments. So these are the words of background so you understand the scale and ambition of the EZAZ programme. I want to now say 4 things about what we saw, what we think about that programme now we've had time to examine it and to prepare this report. The first thing to say is that it's had a very strong first year or so. It's got off to a really good start. And when you imagine that this was established before the COVID-19 crisis, you realise that is an impressive achievement to have a successful year through such a challenging time in Pakistan and indeed everywhere across the world. What we've seen in that year or so of the establishment of EZAZ is a shift from the politics of patronage, using politics to reward your friends, to the politics of performance, using politics to deliver for the people measurable results. And that's a very, very important shift. And I congratulate those involved in the ESAS programme, Dr. Sania herself, for bringing about that shift. And that's the title we've chosen for our report. Let me give an example, because this has been the most urgent priority given the year that we've been living through around the world. I want to give the example of the ESAS Emergency Cash Programme. But remember, it's one part of this wider multi-dimensional programme. The ESAS Emergency Cash Programme is a very large programme delivering cash transfers to 15 million people. And if you take the fact that the average family size in Pakistan is 5 or 6, you're talking about up to 90 million direct or indirect beneficiaries from this programme. And what Dr. Sania and her colleagues in the past ministry have done is deliver that cash in a way that is rapid, is efficient, is digital, and has massively reduced any risks of corruption. And they've done that by doing it digitally with the best technology, by constantly reviewing. They've done that by checking the national ID and the bank account of every single individual. And there's been an auditable process, so that's all there for the record, it's auditable. This is very, very impressive to get that amount of cash to that many people that fast and that effectively in these very difficult circumstances that we've been living through. By the way, if you, for some reason, haven't got a bank account, you can opt in, but again, there are rigorous checks on identity. They also, in setting that programme up, removed 800,000, just over 800,000 people from previous beneficiaries of the BISC programme. They removed beneficiaries, for example, where the spouse had travelled abroad, or the person himself or herself had travelled abroad. They removed beneficiaries where the spouse was a government employee. And in that way, they took 800,000 people off the original list to make sure that the money was actually going to people that it was intended for, to alleviate poverty and not to benefit people who had no right to that money. So that's very impressive. How did that work? Well, in the first part of the year when the COVID-19 crisis hit Pakistan and everywhere around the world, between March and May, the program design was worked out. The banks were brought on board. 2 banks who won an open competition became partners with the government. And Sania Nishtar herself spent time every day working with the people who were organising that program in the banks and or in the provinces to make sure that the program worked and that problems as they arose were solved instantly. That itself was a very, very impressive bit of implementation. And one of the things that Dr. Sania and her colleagues in the past ministry have done very well is build good relationships across the federal government, the cabinet, and obviously with the Prime Minister, with the provinces. I've spoken to people in the provinces who are very, very impressed by the way the federal government has organised this. As you know, it's not always the case that people in the provinces in Pakistan think that the federal government has done a good job, but in this case, they unanimously do think that. I've spoken to the people in the banks. They too are very impressed by the daily routines that Dr. Sania achieved. And above and beyond all of that very meticulous implementation, Dr. Sania and sometimes the Prime Minister as well made field visits to check that the programme was working at the front line. They weren't just waiting in Islamabad to hear the feedback, they went to find it. They wanted to see what's happening for themselves. So that phase has been really important, and if I can quote a British Prime Minister from the past, Winston Churchill, it's not the end of the programme, it's not even the beginning of the end, but it is the end of the beginning. This first phase has been extremely successful, but now, and you will have seen some of these announcements made in recent weeks, now the issue is to move the programme to be a system-wide delivery system to tackle poverty at its root causes, not just its symptoms, but it's caused it. And that's the process that's now beginning to happen. One coordinated strategy led by the Prime Minister and by Dr. Sania on his behalf, but involving the whole government. And I believe this will be one of the most ambitious programs anywhere in the world to tackle poverty, and Pakistan should be proud to have that program within its borders. I know Dr. Sania and her colleagues in the past ministry are working to design an effective delivery function to make sure that the whole coordinated strategy, not just the cash transfers that I've talked about, is properly organised, is properly delivered, and is monitored as it's implemented. Problems are solved as they arise. The last point I'll make concerns Dr. Sania's personal leadership of this programme. I've seen many leaders around the world implementing ambitious programmes. That's the work I do in many, many countries. But very few of them have all the qualities that Dr. Sania represents. So dedication to the people of Pakistan, complete commitment to addressing poverty across the country, commitment to this programme, loyalty to the government, ambition, a belief that even in very, very difficult times, this is a job that can be done and will be done and will make a big difference to the whole country. Clarity, so she doesn't hide problems, and she sees them, she looks them in the face, and she tackles them. She works with her colleagues to solve those problems. In the early days of the design of the programme, she had a board with lots of yellow sticky labels on it, and she carried it around Islamabad through ministries saying, this is what we're going to do, what do you think, consulting people, getting them on board, sharing her thinking with them and learning from them all the time. That then became the first draft of what is now this SESAS programme. Perseverance, this is difficult work. Addressing poverty in any country is a very challenging thing to do. It needs persistence. It needs to be seen through day after day. It's not something you announce in a press conference.
शुक्रिया अदा करना चाहती हूँ कि आपने टाइम निकाला। सर माइकल बार्बर हुकूमती अमूर में एक वर्ल्ड अथॉरिटी माने जाते हैं। खास तौर पे हुकूमतों की जो डिलीवरी कैपेबिलिटी होती है, उनकी जो कारकर्दगी से मुतल्लिक जो साइंस है, जिसको डिलीवरोलॉजी कहते हैं, ये लफ्ज़ इन्होंने इजाद किया, इस पर किताबें लिखी, मरासले लिखे। हाउ टू रन अ गवर्नमेंट जो इनकी किताब है पेंगुइन प्रेस की, बहुत ही मशहूर किताब है। ये बरतानिया में 5 साल तक यूके हुकूमत की डिलीवरी यूनिट के सरबराह रहे। बहुत से मुल्कों के सरबराहान को की रहनुमाई करते हैं और बहुत सी इनकी पब्लिकेशंस हैं। तो इनकी हौसला अफजाई हमारे लिए बहुत अहम है। इनके मशवरे भी हमारे लिए बहुत अहम है, क्योंकि इन्होंने जो रिपोर्ट हमारे साथ शेयर की है उसमें एहसास प्रोग्राम को बेहतर करने के लिए भी बहुत से मशवरे शामिल हैं। जैसे कि आप सब जानते हैं, एहसास प्रोग्राम एक अम्ब्रेला प्रोग्राम है और उसके दायरा कार में जो भी प्रोग्राम चलते हैं, एहसास किफ़ालत है, एहसास नशोनुमा है, तालीमी वज़ाइफ से मुतल्लिक प्रोग्राम हैं, एहसास अंडर ग्रेजुएट स्कॉलरशिप है, एहसास किफ़ालत, एहसास तहफ़्फ़ुज़ है, एहसास आमदन का प्रोग्राम है, एहसास वन विंडो है, एहसास लंगर का प्रोग्राम है, ये तमाम, और एहसास इमरजेंसी कैश जिसका आपने भी जिक्र भी सुना, ये तमाम प्रोग्राम्स जो हैं, इनका मकसद सिर्फ एक ही है कि हकदारों के हाथ में उनका हक पहुँचे। ये हुकूमत पाकिस्तान के कंधों पे एक बहुत ही अहम जिम्मेवारी है और इस जिम्मेवारी को निभाने के लिए हमने एक निज़ाम बनाने की कोशिश पिछले 1.5 साल से जारी है। मकसद ये है कि ये निज़ाम करप्शन से पाक हो, ये निज़ाम गैर सियासी बुनियादों पे चले, एक मुनज़्ज़म अंदाज से चले और एक शफाफियत को मलूज़ रखते हुए ये निज़ाम चले। हम पिछले 1.5 साल से दिन रात इस निज़ाम की तश्कील के लिए मेहनत कर रहे हैं और साथ साथ प्रोग्रामों को भी रोल आउट कर रहे हैं, उनको पाए तकमील तक भी पहुँचा रहे हैं, स्केल अप भी कर रहे हैं। ये बहुत मुश्किल और कठिन काम है और अभी बहुत लंबा रास्ता बाकी है। ये सफ़र हमारा जारी रहेगा। जो भी इब्तदाई कामयाबियाँ अल्लाह की मेहरबानी से हमारी हुकूमत को नसीब हुई हैं, मैं उसमें ये कहना चाहती हूँ कि उसमें वज़ीर आज़म की डायरेक्ट सरबराही का बहुत बड़ा हिस्सा है, क्योंकि जो भी मुश्किल फ़ैसले हम करते हैं, जो भी डिसिप्लिनरी एक्शंस हम करते हैं, जो भी गैर सियासी बुनियादों पे प्रोग्राम को चलाने के लिए जो भी फ़ैसले करने होते हैं, वो उनकी डायरेक्ट सपोर्ट के बगैर बहुत ही मुश्किल हो जाते हैं। तो मैं उनकी बहुत शुक्रगुज़ार हूँ कि उन्होंने डायरेक्टली इस प्रोग्राम की सरबराह हमारी रहनुमाई भी की, सरबराही भी की और मुश्किल फ़ैसले करने में जो भी हमें सपोर्ट दरकार थी वो भी हमारे पीछे खड़े रहे। मैं ये भी कहना चाहूँगी कि इस प्रोग्राम को सक्सेसफुल बनाने में पूरी हुकूमत की नेक नीयत शामिल है और सबसे ज़्यादा ये भी मैं कहना चाहूँगी कि मेरी टीम की मेहनत, मेरे सेक्रेटरीज़ की नेक नीयत भी इसमें सब शामिल है। ये सफ़र अभी इब्तिदा हुई है, ये सफ़र इंशाल्लाह जारी रहेगा। अभी हमने आगे बहुत सा काम करना है निज़ाम को ठीक करने के हवाले से भी और नए प्रोग्रामों की तश्कील और जो अभी प्रोग्राम्स हैं उनकी स्केल अप और उनकी क्वालिटी बेहतर करने से मुताल्लिक अभी बहुत काम बाकी है। तो आप सबका साथ हमारे लिए बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट है, क्योंकि लोगों तक हमारा मैसेज पहुँचाना, लोगों को इस प्रोग्राम से इस्तिफ़ादा करने की तरीक़ेकार से आगाही करने में आप लोगों का बहुत ही अहम किरदार है। और जब भी मैं यहाँ आती हूँ, मैं आपसे यही अपील करती हूँ कि आप हमारा उसमें साथ दें। बहुत शुक्रिया।
बहुत शुक्रिया Sir, many thanks. Sir Michael, this is me, Sayyid Al-Maul Hassan from State Broadcaster Pakistan Television News. Sir, as you have mentioned in your opening remarks that you have penned down this report and you have mentioned that the Assas represents shift from politics of patronage to politics of performance, and you have worked with successive governments in Pakistan. I would like to ask you, tell us that how do you differentiate it from the past governments' social welfare programs, because they have also initiated few programs in their tenures as well. How Assas program is more significant, effective in tackling and confronting poverty in Pakistan. The second part of my question is, what is the way forward would you suggest as we are confronting the second wave of coronavirus in Pakistan, so as the world? But by the way, in a lighter vein, you guys are lucky as UK has started vaccination for COVID-19. We are still in the process of procuring it. How we can effectively curb our poverty, because in your report you have mentioned that almost a quarter of Pakistan population continues to live below the national poverty line. What is the way forward, sir? Thank you.
Minister, would you like me to answer now?
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Please go ahead.
First of all, thank you very much for your questions. On the first question, I work with governments all over programs that are designed to benefit people practically in their lives. Maybe it's a health program, an education program, an anti-poverty program, a jobs development program, those kinds of things. I'm not party political. In Britain, I've done work for the British government under 6 different prime ministers, right back to John Major. So that's what motivates me. I want to see governments doing effective work that benefits ordinary citizens and enhances their lives and gives them fulfilment and the opportunity to grow with their family, with their community, and contribute economically as well as socially to wherever they live. That's what I do. And in my many visits to Pakistan, I spent much time in Punjab working on health and education programs. I admire the work that's done in Punjab on those health and education programs. A lot of benefits were brought to those programs, and I salute the people who worked on them across the province. And now the same about this program. What I don't like anywhere in the world is where political progress is simply about winning power and providing jobs or opportunities or even corruption for one's friends. So the programs I like are the ones that deliver for citizens. That's why, as Dr. Sania said in her opening remarks, I'm focused on delivery, or I call it deliverology. That's what I do. So I've loved my visits to Pakistan. I've seen good and bad and indifferent, but I've seen beneficial and good things over many of those visits. And I salute all the people in Pakistan, regardless of the party they're in, that are working for the benefit of the ordinary people of Pakistan. And I salute very much the current Prime Minister, Dr. Sania, and her colleagues in government for the work they're doing on anti-poverty. As I said earlier, I think it will be an example, not just of great work in Pakistan, but an example to the world as to how to tackle poverty. On the second question, I don't know, Britain doesn't feel all that lucky, although we have started a vaccination program, and I agree it's great to be on that case, but we've had a very tough year, as has Pakistan, as have many countries. I think that we've learned collectively, as a world, how to manage this pandemic. We've got better at it. I spent yesterday talking with the leadership of the World Health Organization about the management of the pandemic, what we've learned and what we can do in the future to minimize the damage of events such as the COVID-19 crisis. While we wait for the vaccination to be spread around the world, as you probably know, there's a big effort funded in part by the Gates Foundation, partly by other large global donors, called COVAX, to get the vaccination around the world as rapidly as possible over the next year or two, and people are working on that. That's a good thing. But in the meantime, all the things we know about social distancing, about people wearing masks, as we see the Minister and Dr. Sania doing now, all of those things, the basic habits that we've seen are necessary, need to be seen through in Pakistan. Although the first vaccinations happened in Britain, it will take many months before that is spread around the country, and we have to be careful for a bit longer. And the challenge for every government is to balance managing the health crisis while keeping the economy at least ticking over and hopefully growing. And coming to the final part of your question about tackling poverty, one of the things I like about ESAS is the 4 strands. It's not just cash transfers, which are important, but they don't solve the problems in the long run. It's not just about dealing with elite capture and changing the governance of programs, although that is also important. It's also about human capital development. You've heard recently the Wasila program announced by the Prime Minister and Dr. Sania, directly addressing education. There's scholarships for both young women and young men to go on into higher education. Again, absolutely fundamental to tackling poverty in the long run. And then there's a program still coming through on jobs and livelihoods. In the end, tackling poverty is about giving people opportunity and enabling them to seize those opportunities so they don't depend on government cash, they can make their own way in life. And I love the fact that the ESAS program is such a comprehensive, multi-dimensional program.
शिबली फराज साहब, आपके तवस्सुत से मुहतरमा सानिया निश्चित साहब से ये सवाल है कि क्या ऐसा मुमकिन नहीं है कि मुस्तकिल बुनियादों पे गुर्बत मिटाओ प्रोग्राम के तहत जो सिख इंडस्ट्रीज है, खुसूसी तौर पे सूबा खैबर पख्तूनख्वा और दीगर जगहों पे, अगर ये रकम जो एडहाक बुनियादों पे आप दे रही हैं, माहाना बुनियादों पे या 3 महीने बाद, अगर इसका कुछ जैसा मख्तस कर दिया जाए तो लोगों को मुस्तकिल बुनियादों पर रोजगार फराहम हो सकता है और हुकूमत का बहुत बड़ा सदका जारी होगा। थैंक्स।
ये हुकूमती निज़ाम में जो सबसे पहले तो आप बिल्कुल सही फरमा रहे हैं कि गुर्बत का जो मुसल्लमा खात्मा होता है वो तभी होता है कि जब रोज़गार पैदा हो, जब मीशत का पहिया चले, जब इंडस्ट्री चले, जब रोज़गार पैदा हो, लोगों को रोज़गार मिले और वो अपने और अपने बच्चों का पेट पाल सकें। तो वो तो आप बिल्कुल सही फरमा रहे हैं। हुकूमती निज़ाम में जो डिफरेंट मिनिस्ट्रियाँ होती हैं वो उनके अपने अपने काम होते हैं और हमारी जो मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ इंडस्ट्रीज़ है वो इस सिलसिले में मजबूत पॉलिसीज़ बना भी रही है और उसके समरात आपके सामने भी आ रहे हैं। हाल ही में वज़ीर आज़म साहब फैसलाबाद में थे और आपने देखी कि वहाँ इम्पैक्ट आया है, वो भी आपने फर्स्ट हैंड देखा। कैश ट्रांसफर्स का, समाजी तहफ़्फ़ुज़ का, सोशल प्रोटेक्शन का, गुर्बत के खात्मे में एक ख़ास किरदार होता है उन लोगों के लिए जो अपने पैरों पे खड़े नहीं हो सकते, जिनको हुकूमत की मुआवनत चाहिए होती है, जो इंतहाई गरीब होते हैं, इंतहाई मुस्तहिक होते हैं, उसमें बहुत ख़ुसूसी अफराद होते हैं। और हमारी हुकूमत की ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा यही कोशिश है कि जो समरात हैं समाजी तहफ़्फ़ुज़ के वो उन लोगों को मिले जो सबसे नीचे हैं और जो सबसे इसके से हकदार हैं। इसके साथ साथ भी मैं ये भी कहना चाहूँगी, जैसे कि सर माइकल बार्बर ने भी फरमाया कि एहसास के दायरा काबिल में जो हमारे बिला सूद कर्जे का प्रोग्राम है उसके तहत 80,000 कर्जा जो मिलता है हर महीने, जो आमदन का प्रोग्राम है वो भी रोज़गार के मौक़े फराहम करने के लिए। तो ऐसा नहीं है कि एहसास सिर्फ कैश ही देता है, मगर उसमें भी रोज़गार के काफ़ी मौक़े हैं। मगर जैसे कि मैंने पहले अर्ज़ की, हुकूमती निज़ाम में और जो मिनिस्ट्रियाँ हैं उनका मुसल्लमा काम ये है कि ये सिख इंडस्ट्रीज़ की बहाली के लिए काम करें, जो एक बहुत ही अहम ऑब्जेक्टिव है और जिसकी तरफ आपने बिल्कुल ठीक निशानदेही की है।
Sir Michael, I am Sania from Dawn Television. Sir, the report is in my hand, but I have not read this. But I have some question about this report and your analysis. Have you visited ground realities after coronavirus about this report, or you have used the official data of the government of Pakistan to analyze or to write this report? And second question is this: after March, Pakistani government announced 1.2 trillion program for the COVID-19, and they have distributed 12,000, almost $70 or $71 per family for 3 months. This is equal to our, if you distribute in monthly, is $21 or $23 almost. In a country where the inflation, particularly the food inflation, is highest in the region, it is 15 to 16%. Or these amount is enough, $23 per month for a family, which is living the level of the poverty level. Your comments, please.
Dr. Sania, I wonder if you could, I found that hard to hear some of that. I wonder if you could just summarize the question for me. I'm sorry, thank you to the journalist for the question, but it was hard to follow.
So our colleague from Dawn Television basically asked two things. He said that what was your methodology? Were you on ground when you were collecting data, or did you rely on secondary data, secondary information? Did you do any primary data collection? That was the first part of his question. And secondly, he said that the government had a certain package in the COVID context, and under the SARS Emergency Cash Program, each eligible family got an equivalent of $21 to $22 per month for 3 months. So he's asking whether you think that was adequate given the current inflation trends.
Thank you for the question. Thank you, Dr. Sania, for summarising it clearly. Apologies to the journalists for not hearing it the first time. On the methodology, my team, I had a team working with me on this report, and 2 of them were in Pakistan, one in Islamabad, one in the north. I personally have done all my interviews remotely using this technology during the pandemic year. Travelling has not been possible, as you know, but we have had members of the team in Pakistan on the ground, and they have done interviews in Islamabad and indeed in Lahore. But again, everybody's travel is restricted, even within Pakistan. So we've done our best on that. We've read a lot of the reports that have been produced on this and summarised them, learned the lessons from them. We've interviewed key people, as I mentioned, in the banks involved, in the provinces involved, across the federal government. So we've read reports. We've also taken reports not just from government, but independently produced by aid agencies or whatever. So we've looked at a lot of secondary sources. We've done a lot of primary research directly, interviewing people involved in the program in different ways, and taking their perspectives into account. And the team of 4 of us, 2 of them were permanently in Pakistan, and indeed are proud citizens of Pakistan. On the package, look, the emergency, the ESA's emergency cash transfers were very, very important. They were a lifeline for 15 million people and their families. You can always argue about what's enough, but they made all the difference to those families. So I think that was a great step forward. You mentioned the inflation rate. I think that's really a question for Dr. Sania and the government to be thinking about what happens to that cash transfer program in the future. That's not part of our report, but clearly it's something any government would need to keep under review.
Just a quick response on the inflation aspect. You will notice that one of the 142 actions of SARS is inflation adjustment of the cash transfer. So yes, we are working on that. But as far as the size of the cash transfer goes, in terms of SARS emergency cash, that was calculated based on basic subsistence need for 3 months, which is what the government was looking at in March when COVID-19 had struck and the country went into a lockdown.
पाकिस्तान में तो मौजूदा लेयर के दौरान लॉकडाउन नहीं किया गया, लेकिन आज़ाद कश्मीर में गुज़श्ता काफ़ी दिनों से लॉकडाउन है। वहाँ कारोबारी जो अफराद हैं मुतासर हैं और आम आदमी भी। तो आपने पहले पैकेज में तो जो भी उनको दिया, लेकिन इस लेयर के दौरान आज़ाद कश्मीर के जो कारोबारी तबका है उनके लिए क्या पैकेज का ऐलान किया है और कितना किया, कितनी रकम मुख्तस की गई है आपने? सर, आप से क्वेश्चन ये है कि जीबी को आज आपने सूबाई सेटअप दे दिया, आज इंसानी हकूक़ की जो आलमी दिन के मौके के ऊपर आज़ाद कश्मीर क्या समझते हैं कि आज़ाद कश्मीर में भी आइंदा सूबाई सेटअप बना देना चाहिए, क्या तजवीज़ है?
गवर्नमेंट AJK से अगर कोई स्पेशल रिक्वेस्ट आई है कोविड कॉन्टेक्स्ट में असिस्टेंस के लिए, तो मैं उससे वाकिफ नहीं हूँ, और अगर वहाँ से कोई स्पेशल रिक्वेस्ट आएगी तो आई एम श्योर द गवर्नमेंट विल डील विद इट ऑन अ प्रायोरिटी बेसिस।
जहाँ तक आपने जो आपका सवाल का दूसरा हिस्सा था, उसका मैं ये कहूँगा कि कल मैं और अली अमीन गंडापुर साहब जो कि मुतल्लिका वज़ीर हैं इन इलाकों के, हमें باقاعدہ پریس کانفرنس کر رہے ہیں جس میں آپ کو تمام ان سوالات کا جواب مل جائے گا.
میڈم ایک سوال ہے کہ انتہائی غریب لوگوں کے لیے خاص پروگرام ہے, انتہائی اچھا پروگرام ہے, لیکن لوگوں کو انفارمیشن نہیں ہے, لوگ اس کا نام نکالے تو سمجھ نہیں ہے کہ ہاں تو کیا کوئی ایسا فرنچائز سائٹ یا کوئی ایسی جگہ بنائی جا رہی ہے کہ ہر بندہ جا کے اپنی انفارمیشن دے سکے اور ڈیٹا کلیکٹ کروا سکے کہ میں اس کے لیے ایپ ہوں یا نہیں, کیونکہ ہم نے جو کلیکشن ڈیٹا کلیکٹ کی ہے اس میں لوگوں کو پتہ نہیں ہے کہ ہم اس کے ایپ ہیں, غریب انتہائی غریب لوگ ہیں, لیکن نہ ان کے پاس انٹرنیٹ کی فیسلٹیز ہے, نہ دوسری فیسلٹیز ہے. اس بارے میں
آپ کا بہت اچھا سوال ہے, کیونکہ ہمارے لیے اب کیونکہ پروگرامز کچھ حد تک پہنچ گئے ہیں اور اب ہم ان کی اسکیل اپ کے لیے کوششیں جاری ہیں, ہمارے لیے سب سے بڑا چیلنج یہ انفارمیشن ہے کہ لوگوں تک انفارمیشن پہنچے, کریکٹ انفارمیشن پہنچے, اور جو بدعنوان عناصر جو ان کو معصوم لوگوں کو ٹرپ کرنے کی کوشش کرتے ہیں وہ انفارمیشن ان تک نہ پہنچے. تو اس سلسلے میں ہم کافی اقدامات کر رہے ہیں اور انشاءاللہ 2021 کے پہلے کوارٹر میں آپ دیکھیں گے کہ احساس کا ایک احساس سینٹر کھل جائے گا جو پھر باقی شہروں باقی ڈویژنس میں ریپلیکیٹ ہوگا. احساس سینٹر میں ون ونڈو آپریشنز کی سہولیات ہوگی کہ اگر کسی نے رجسٹریشن کرانی ہے تو وہاں آئے, کسی کی کمپلینٹ ہے تو وہ وہاں آئے, کسی نے اپنی ایلیجیبلٹی دیکھنی ہے تو اس کے لیے وہاں سہولت موجود ہو, اگر کوئی حقدار ہے تو وہ ATM سے وہاں پیسے نکالنے آئے, اگر وہ پھنس جائے تو وہیں کمپلینٹ والے لوگ بیٹھے ہوں, وہیں پہ احساس آمدن کا ڈیسک ہو, احساس بلا سود قرضے کا ڈیسک ہو, وظائف سے متعلق تفصیلات لوگوں کو مہیا کیے جائیں, اس کا ایک گھرانے اپنی خواتین کو کیا روزگار کے مواقع دے سکتے ہیں وہاں اس کی بھی انفارمیشن موجود ہو, نشو و نما کے بھی کیوسک موجود ہوں. تو انشاءاللہ اگلے 3 ماہ میں جو پہلا احساس سینٹر ہے وہ کھل جائے گا. آپ سب کو انشاءاللہ مہمان دعوت ہوگی. اور احساس سینٹر کے ساتھ ساتھ ہماری جو ڈیجیٹل انٹرفیس ہے, اب آپ یہ کہیں گے کہ بہت جو غریب لوگ ہیں ان کے پاس انٹرنیٹ نہیں ہوتا, مگر وہ ہم سہولت اس طرح اس لیے بنا رہے ہیں کہ جو معاشرے میں لوگ ہیں جو سمجھ بوجھ رکھتے ہیں, جن کے پاس فون ہے, جو انٹرنیٹ کو ایکسیس کر سکتے ہیں, وہ انفارمیشن لوگوں تک پہنچانے میں ہماری مدد کریں. اور انوار صاحب یہاں بیٹھے ہوئے ہیں, میری ان سے خصوصی استدعا ہوگی کہ PTV اور ریڈیو کو ہم میکسیملی اس کے لیے یوز کریں. انشاءاللہ اگلے 3 مہینے میں آپ
اچھا مسٹر صاحب ایک ہٹ کے سے سوال ہے.
دیکھیں میری ریکویسٹ ہی ہوگی کہ آج شام کو میں پریس کانفرنس کر رہا ہوں اسی موضوع پہ, تو آج کے جو سوالات ہیں وہ اگر سر مائیکل بابر کی موجودگی کو ہم فائدہ اٹھا سکیں, اگر اس احساس ریلیٹڈ سوال ہوں تو ہم اپریشیٹ کریں گے. باقی جو ہے تو آج شام کو میری پریس کانفرنس ہے, تو جتنے سیاسی اور دوسرے سوالات ہیں وہ آپ سے پوچھ سکتے ہیں. ایک سیکنڈ شکریہ. Thank you very much, Sir Michael Baba. You have been extremely kind and you gave us your very precious time to share with us your findings and also guiding us. We really appreciate your contribution to the people of Pakistan and elsewhere in the world, and we will continue to look forward to your comments, your suggestions, your appraisals, and seek your guidance in that regard, because deliverology, the term that you have coined, is obviously a very, very interesting one, and it is very pertinent and is very relevant anywhere else, but more so also in Pakistan. So thank you very much, Sir Michael Baba, for your kindness.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Minister. And I will always be a friend of Pakistan. And shukriya, Minister Saab.
Thank you.